Alright guys, you asked for it. This is one of the most requested videos that I have ever had in the history of Missflips, so we are going to talk about it today. How to take flattering photos to make sure that your pieces sell. So let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Missflips. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing something very important, staging. So let's use me as a quick example. Right now my intro is dark, it's shady, it's gloomy. You can see the bags under my eyes. I'm not looking so hot, right? But as soon as I step into the light, all those dark shadows aren't visible anymore, and all of a sudden this shot is much more interesting. Lighting is a key component, pun intended for you lighting folk, of staging a piece. So let's talk about it. So the only lighting that I currently have in my garage is this fluorescent light, and it tends to make things look a little unnatural and cold, which is not what you want for staging photos. Like many of you, my garage is where I take the majority of my photos and do all of my work, and as you can see, the lighting isn't so hot, but as soon as I open up the garage, it adds so much more natural light and makes everything so much warmer and inviting. The floor acts as a natural bounce, allowing the light to just splash right onto my staging wall. Here's a little picture before I open the garage. However, when I open it, boom, everything is more beautiful. You can see all the details so much more vividly. Look at that comparison, night and day, quite literally. And this is just a tip for the average furniture flipper, taking control of the lighting that you have control over. So for example, if you're shooting a piece in front of a window or beside a window, a lot of that light is going to cast a shadow onto the front of the piece. Versus if you have lighting coming from the front, it's the complete opposite. You can see the entire piece perfectly. It's a lot more flattering. This is definitely something to keep in mind when choosing a location for your staging wall. So one thing that I want to make sure that we all know is that you do not need a professional camera. The only reason I have this camera is because I used to be a photographer and still kind of do it from time to time. So I use it for my photos, but that does not mean that you cannot get great results using your phone, a small camera, an iPad, or basically anything with a lens that takes photos. So we're gonna do a little comparison. I'm gonna put tape down on the floor so that I can take the exact same angles on both my camera and my phone. I personally like to take two different photos from each spot, one high and one low. To best replicate the settings that I have with my camera, I'm gonna do this little set of buttons right here, and that way I get the framing that I want. And then you don't have to do this, but I just go ahead and make sure that my live is off, and then I zoom into the two and I adjust the lighting just slightly. You want it just a little higher than normal, and then you take the picture. For editing photos on my phone, I use the free version of the Lightroom app, and I am telling you, this thing is awesome. You can adjust the white balance, the black balance, the highlights, the shadows, all that good stuff. You can even adjust individual colors in case your coloring isn't as strong as you would like it to, which the iPhone does tend to have a little bit of a problem with that. But yeah, honestly, with these settings, you are basically editing with a professional editing software right on your phone. And it does take a little getting used to and fiddling around with it. But here is the unedited version compared to my camera photo. And here is the edited version. It's not perfect, but it is so much better than what we had before. And it is pretty close, honestly, to the camera photo. I promise you, great lighting is all you need to make your photos look 10 times better, no matter what you choose to shoot on. Now let's cover something really quick. I'm gonna give you guys a pro tip for not only being able to sell your pieces and stage them for selling, but also being able to gain a following, which depending on your market can mean a world of difference when it comes to what you sell and how well you sell it. Which if you guys haven't checked out my video on how to get commissions, please make sure to check that out. It's a great video with lots of amazing content. But anyways, you want to gain a following on Instagram, say. Let's just throw it out there for an example. One thing that I've noticed from very large furniture flipping accounts is that their profile grids are exceptional. When you go on their profile, it just looks like a gallery of just gorgeous photos, regardless if you actually click on the photo and enlarge it. You can see, for the most part, this doesn't go for all accounts, but for the most part, you can see the entire piece or the entire photo within their grid or the main subject of the photo. Usually they don't do long photos or tall photos. They usually just do the square photos. And even when they do those long photos, they make sure to make the surrounding area around the subject large enough so when it is on the profile grid, you can still see the entire piece. And this, in my opinion, is super smart, and I have definitely started integrating it. As soon as I noticed that, I was like, okay, that's money. That's what I want to be doing. Which brings me to my next point, replicating what you like to look at. So if you see a photo and you're like, oh wow, that's a pretty photo of a piece, try to replicate it. Try to make your own version of that, doing the same thing with your pieces. So something else that's really important when it comes to taking photos is the angle in which you take them in. I personally like to frame my photos where I show the whole piece, but if you're looking to show details, take the photo with a purpose. Don't just go like close up and take a picture. Take it with the purpose of flattering whatever area you are taking a picture of. For example, this hardware, just because they're hardware doesn't mean that they don't have flattering angles. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So when shooting this hardware, I'm probably gonna look to shoot it at an angle instead of just face on, because then they'll just look like two dots on the piece. I wanna show the dimension and the dynamics of the hardware specifically. So I'm gonna shoot it from a specific angle, showing the exact shape. So for example, if I wanna get a close-up, I'd probably go right about here. Angles like this, of course, depend on the shape and design of your hardware, but for these specifically, it just flatters it a little bit more than a straight-on shot. So if you're gonna be shooting like, say, something like this, where you're trying to highlight a specific part of the piece, for example, this glass window, there's other ways to go about doing that besides just going in close up and taking a photo. However, if I were to take this same kind of shot and only show part of the piece, but make sure to highlight the aspect of the piece that I want to show, there's a specific way to go about doing that without showing the entire piece in the photo. And I'll show you an example of that now. So for this shot, I made sure to get in a place where the light would really show the design on the window, and this is what I mean by taking purposeful shots. There is a big difference between taking a photo just to show your piece and taking a photo to show off your piece. And that's what we're here to do, right guys? We're here to learn how to make our pieces look amazing so that they sell, show them off. When it comes to staging my pieces, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not very good at it. I don't like a lot of items on my pieces, and usually you'll see me put one or maybe two, if any. So as someone who sells furniture, that's definitely something that I need to work on. However, I make it a point to make my photography interesting enough to where I don't need to be a good stager to make sure that my pieces sell. At the end of the day, it's your art. It's what you want to do with your pieces and how you want to represent your artwork. In my experience, the simpler the better. But if you guys have any tips for staging photos, how to decorate, I would love to see them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that you guys learned a lot from this video and go forth and apply these methods to your own staging and are able to sell your pieces more frequently and for a higher price. And if you end up implementing these things and have some awesome success stories, make sure to leave them in the comments. I would love to hear about them. And if you found this video useful, make sure to like and subscribe and share and do all those things so that we can stay a happy flippin' family. If you're looking for other ways to support Missflips, I also have an awesome membership program with so many benefits, so make sure to head over to my channel and check that out. Also, stay tuned for next week's video because we got the Ugly Duckling Challenge headed your way, hosted by Corey at Desert DIY, with so many other furniture artists participating, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But until then, stay flippin', guys.